You've done it. Maybe last week. Maybe this morning. A phone rang, your phone, and instead of answering it, you watched it. You watched it ring like it was something happening to someone else. And when it stopped, you didn't feel relieved exactly. You felt something quieter than that. Something harder to name. Screen goes dark. Silence. Then, a soft buzz. A text notification. The same hand picks up the phone instantly. No hesitation. That's the thing no one really talks about. It's not that we stopped communicating. We communicate more than any generation that's ever lived. We just don't want to talk anymore. And that shift, that quiet, strange, deeply modern shift, says something about us. Something we might not be ready to fully hear. For most of human history, if you wanted to reach someone, you had to show up. Then came the telephone, and suddenly, distance collapsed. You could hear someone's voice from 1,000 miles away. People wept the first time they heard it. It felt like magic. For decades, the phone call was how we stayed close. Long-distance relationships, business deals, late-night conversations that lasted until the sun came up. The phone was intimacy. Then something changed. Not suddenly. Not with a single invention. It happened in layers, like sediment. First, texting. SMS. Clunky at first, 160 characters, T9 keyboards, but people adapted fast. Because texting offered something the phone call never could. Time. Time to think before you respond. Time to edit yourself. Time to craft the version of yourself you wanted to present. Then came smartphones. Then apps. Then entire ecosystems of communication designed around one core principle. You don't have to respond right now. WhatsApp, iMessage, Instagram DMs, Snapchat, email, Slack, Discord. Every single one of them asynchronous by default. Every single one of them saying in their design, you are in control of when this conversation happens. And slowly, quietly, the phone call, the thing that demands you be present, right now without preparation, started to feel like a violation. Here's what actually happens when a phone rings unexpectedly. Your brain registers it as an interruption, a demand. Something placed on you without your consent. Before you even see who's calling, your nervous system has already started calculating. Who is it? What do they want? How long will this take? What if I say the wrong thing? There's a psychological term for this: anticipated anxiety. The fear of something before it even begins. And a phone call is almost uniquely designed to trigger it. Because a phone call is live. It's unedited. It's unpredictable. You can't backspace in a phone call. You can't reread what you said. You can't spend 45 seconds composing yourself before responding. There's a rhythm to it. Question, response, question, response. And if you stumble, if you pause too long, if your voice does something unexpected, there's nowhere to hide. For people who grew up texting, for a generation that learned to communicate through screens, that kind of exposure feels enormous. Not because they're weak. Not because they're antisocial. But because they were trained to communicate differently. They were trained in a medium where you control the pace. Where silence is acceptable, even expected. Where you can think before you speak, and think again before you send. The phone call doesn't allow any of that. It asks you to perform, spontaneously, continuously, without a script. And it's not just anxiety about saying the wrong thing. It's the weight of full presence. A phone call asks for your whole attention, not half of it. Not a glance between other tasks. It asks you to stop everything and just be here, in this conversation with this person right now. In a world that has trained us to do 14 things at once, that kind of singular focus feels almost confrontational. Something happened to us around the mid-2010s. The internet stopped being a place we visited. It became the air. Social media didn't just change where we spent our time. It changed how our brains processed interaction. Every platform was built around a simple dopamine-efficient loop. Scroll. React. Post. Wait for response. Scroll again. Short. Fast. Low stakes. No sustained attention required. And crucially, no real-time social pressure. You could take hours to respond to a comment. Days, even. Nobody would hear the hesitation in your voice. Nobody would notice if you had to think for a while. Short-form content made this even sharper. TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts, platforms that trained attention spans to function in 10-second windows. Platforms that made anything longer, anything that required patience, or sustained focus or quiet, feel almost physically uncomfortable. Now put a phone call into that context. A phone call has no skip button. It has no pause. It has no ability to process at your own pace. It is, by every measure of how the modern internet works, the opposite of what we've been conditioned to want. It's long. It's unpredictable. It's demanding. It requires you to be mentally and emotionally present for its entire duration. Is it any wonder it started to feel like work? There's something else, too. Social media gave everyone a performance space. A profile. A curated feed. We got very good at managing how we appeared to people. We got very good at the controlled version of ourselves. The phone call strips that away. Your voice breaks if you're nervous. You laugh at the wrong moment. You forget what you were saying. The real-time version of you shows up, unpolished, unfiltered. And for a generation raised on editable selves, that's genuinely frightening. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. We are tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind of tired that accumulates from being always reachable. Always on. Always one notification away from having to respond to someone about something. The average person receives dozens of notifications a day across multiple platforms. Work messages, personal messages, news alerts, reminders, reactions, replies, tags. Every single one of them is a small cognitive interruption. Every single one of them is a tiny claim on your attention. Multiply that across a week, a month, a year, and the result isn't just distraction. It's depletion. Psychologists call it cognitive overload. The state where your mental resources have been drawn down so completely that even ordinary tasks feel like too much. Most modern adults are living somewhere near the edge of that. Not in crisis. Not falling apart. But running close to empty. And when you're running close to empty, the last thing you want is something that demands your full, spontaneous, uneditable self. Which is exactly what a phone call is. So you let it ring. Not because you don't care about the person calling, but because you have nothing left right now. And a text, a few words, sent when you're ready, feels like the only way to give something real without losing what little you have left. There's a certain loneliness in that. A loneliness that nobody fully acknowledges because it lives inside the very tools we use to stay connected. We are in constant contact, and we have never been more alone inside that contact. There is something in a voice. Not just the words. The voice. The way someone pauses before they say something hard. The way a laugh sounds when it's genuine. The slight shift in tone that tells you something is wrong even before they say it is. Text doesn't carry that. Emojis don't carry that. And there's research to suggest that the absence of that information, the flattening of human communication into text, makes it harder to understand each other. Harder to feel understood. How many arguments started over a text that was read in the wrong voice? How many friendships cooled because the effort of a real conversation felt like too much, so you stayed in the low-maintenance loop of reactions and brief replies? How many times have you realized, weeks later, that someone needed you, really needed you, and you missed it because you were communicating in a medium too shallow to hold that kind of signal? This is what the shift costs. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But slowly, steadily, we traded depth for convenience. We traded presence for control. And somewhere along the way, the sound of a ringing phone stopped feeling like a connection arriving. It started feeling like a demand we didn't have the bandwidth to meet. None of this makes us bad people. That needs to be said clearly. The anxiety around phone calls, the preference for text, the need to control the terms of interaction, these aren't character flaws. They're adaptations. Adaptations to an environment that changed faster than our nervous systems could keep up with. We built tools that gave us more communication than any generation in history. And then we discovered that more communication, delivered at the speed and scale we chose, also meant less connection. Less of the unpredictable, uncontrollable, sometimes uncomfortable thing that happens when two people are fully present with each other. There's something worth sitting with in that. Not guilt. Not nostalgia for a world that wasn't perfect either. Just awareness. Awareness that the things we've optimized out of our communication, the awkward pauses, the spontaneous laughter, the voice that breaks slightly when someone says something true, those were never inefficiencies. They were the whole point. We don't hate phone calls. Not really. We're just exhausted. And a little afraid. And trying to protect the small amounts of ourselves we have left. That's not a technology problem. That's a human problem. The kind that's been with us forever, dressed now, in the language of apps and algorithms and notification settings. The kind that probably won't be solved by the next update. The most modern thing you can do might be the oldest thing in the world. Pick up the phone. Say, "I'm here."